Hey everybody, how's everybody doing today? Thank you for joining me on 365 Movies in 365 Days, and this is Jose. So today's show, we have a few things to get to. We are going to talk Thor, new Thor movie, was sort of announced just yesterday. We're also going to do some movie reviews with the good, the bad, and the ugly. We have The Good, The Man Who Shot Liberty Valance, The Bad Friday, the 13th Part 3, and The Ugly, a movie called Baffled. We are also going to talk about, or I'm going to talk to you guys about 5 new and original movies that are coming out later on this year. These are movies that are not sequels, prequels, or associated with anything else. Sometimes they're associated with books at the most. So let's get right to it. So it was announced yesterday, at a surprise for everybody, that we are going to be getting a new Thor movie, Thor 4. Now, it doesn't have a name, it doesn't have a plot, it doesn't even have a date, because apparently they're just getting to the writing portion. But it was announced that Taika Waititi is coming back as the director, and so is Chris Hemsworth. So people who were concerned that, Thor was going to be going away and that'd be the end of it, he is coming back now. There are some interesting things to know about this first. So it looks like it might be released before the next Guardians of the Galaxy, which now puts into question everything that we saw at the end of Avengers Endgame. Is Thor still going to be fat? Is he still going to go with the Guardians? What is going to happen? I have no idea. I have no way to predict. I'm not part of the inner circle. And we probably will get more clarification at Comic-Con SD later on. But what I would not be surprised is if this is a kind of hybrid where it takes on a little bit of the Guardians, it has them in the movie, and yet still is a Thor feature, and uses that as the launching pad for the next Guardians movie. So that's my idea, that's what it might be. I have no way of knowing, but we'll soon find out. And it's great excitement. I mean, the last Thor movie, Thor Ragnarok, was my favorite MCU movie. It was flat out great. It had great action, great performances, great music. The story was great. It had great humor. It had everything that I really want out of a movie. So I'm personally really excited about it. Now, the only thing that kind of sucks about this is that it puts off indefinite the new Akira movie, which is a movie that has been in development for a long time, and I was hoping we might finally get it. So it's a little bit of a bummer that that's been placed on hold now, but like I said, hey, Thor is pretty good. So that's the only thing in the news that I have today. It's been a little bit quiet time in Hollywood. I think everybody's getting ready for all the big excitement of Comic-Con that, like I said, is coming soon. Once that does come, I will keep you up on what's, happening there. So the next thing I want to do is, there's so much talk these days about, original movies versus, these sequels, prequels, reboots, and, IP type movies where it seems like it's the same junk going over and over and over and over again. And there's always people who complain, we just want original movies. Of course, I always say there's tons of original movies. You have to seek it out. It isn't going to be just dropped in your lap. So I kind of wanted to focus on 5 original movies that are coming out that I'm particularly looking forward to. I do have a longer list of an additional 5 that if you go to the show notes, go to our home page, you can see the other 5 movies. But these are just 5 of the ones that I'm really particularly looking forward to. 2 of these are based on a book, and one of them is a semi-documentary. Well, not documentary, a semi-autobiography, I should say. And then the other 2 are just completely brand new ideas. But let's get with it. So the first one is called Where'd You Go, Bernadette? Now, this is a movie that stars Kate Blanchett, who is, look, let me tell you, I actually read this book. It is a great, great book. So I'm really looking forward to it. With that said, you would say, well, why are you looking forward to it if you already know what happens? I want to see how it comes out. This is the thing about books. You know how there's a little bit of a surprise is taken away because you read the book and you know how it turns out. But these characters, the situations that they go through have been in your head only. And now you're going to see them come to life. And it's always exciting to see how close you were with what you envisioned in your mind. Now, like I said, it has a great cast. I mean, Cate Blanchett right there, that's a winner. It's being directed by Richard Linklater, who is one of the best directors out there. So I have great confidence that this is going to be a top-notch movie. It is scheduled to be released on August 16th, so not that much longer, about a month from now. Like I said, always complain about non-original movies not being out there, not getting the same love. This is one that I hopefully will, you'll be able to say, yeah, let's go ahead and support a movie like this. So that's that. Now, if you want to know what the movie is about, just a quick little overview without giving you too much. Kate plays a character named Bernadette, and Bernadette hates people, hates life, doesn't leave her house, doesn't do much of anything. And then one day she just disappears, and it is up to her daughter B. Yes, her name is B-E-E. It's her mission to go out and find out what happened to her mom. It's a mystery, but then it's not. It's just a very compelling story that I hope really comes out well. The next movie we have is called The Goldfinch. Now, The Goldfinch is also based on a book. However, this one's a little different. So this one stars one of the hottest actors out there, Ansel Elgort, right? Right, probably. And he stars as a young kid named Theo. Theo survives a terrorist attack that takes the life of his mother. And in the midst of that, he kind of gets thrown into this world where life from that point on doesn't go the path that he expected it to happen. He ends up going from place to place, and at one point ends up with his dad, who's an alcoholic, and then gets mixed into this art forgery type situation. It is another, movie based on a book that I read. And I loved the book. The book is amazing. It's one of those ones you really, once you start really picking it up, you don't put it down. It's great. Full of great characters, great situations, and great insight into life. And so hopefully for me, it has everything that the book had. That's one of the hopes a lot of times, in movies like this. What I'm really looking forward to the most when it comes to this is that from the trailer that I've seen so far, is that it has the same, how can I put this? The same feeling about life. Because you see yourself in the characters. And like I was saying, it's the same thing with, Where'd You Go, Bernadette. You have these visions of what the characters are like in your head swimming around there, And when you see it, in front of you, you want it to be what you always thought it was in your head. I'm really looking forward to it. It looks promising and it looks great so far. Hopefully it won't be one of those movies that doesn't quite capture audiences. And I think that the good thing about it is that it's not being released in the summer, so it's not necessarily a summer pick. But hopefully it actually, does well enough because it's coming out on September 13th that it's being positioned, for an Oscar. Who knows? Maybe they seen something that we haven't, but it looks great. The next movie that, I have is something that's a little bit different. And for this, we're going to go back to our old friend Waititi. He is coming out with a movie called Jojo Rabbit. Now, Jojo Rabbit is being released on October 18th. And Jojo Rabbit is one of those movies who the premise sounds ridiculous. Okay, so here's the premise. We have a German boy named Jojo who discovers that his mom, Rosie, has been hiding a young Jewish girl in their attic, right? The only person that Jojo can turn to is his imaginary friend who is named Adolf Hitler. And Jojo must confront this idea of nationalism. It is right there, right? Adolf Hitler. I mean, that's bold. That is really bold. And it looks wonderful. I don't expect anything less than great from this movie. But I can also understand how it probably makes some people uncomfortable. But hopefully that's not the case. It's being released by Walt Disney Studios, and this doesn't, at first sight doesn't sound like something that Walt Disney would release, but who knows? Maybe this is one of their stabs at saying, hey, yeah, we can take this project on, and maybe it's so good enough that we can turn this into, award seasons. Like I said, I'm looking forward to this because it's a new and a different original and a bold idea, and I like bold ideas in movies. Don't get me wrong. I love the sequels. I love the, all that stuff, the reboots and everything else, characters we're familiar with. Those movies always, no matter how much they spin it, aren't bold. They're not taking chances. And that's the one thing about like the MCU. I love the MCU movies, but they're not bold. None of them are bold. There's not one of them that takes any really big, chances in its filmmaking. This, by naming a character Adolf Hitler, bold as it gets, right? The next one, our fourth movie, is it's a mixture of drama and biography. It's called Aeronauts. Now, Aeronauts is scheduled to be released on October 25th. This is a movie that reunites Eddie Redmayne and Felicity Jones, who did really well together, who did really well in The Theory of Everything, the Stephen Hawking's biography from a few years ago. So with this movie, what this movie is about, it's about two scientists who go up in a hot air balloon to, make discoveries about life and their fight for survival once they get up there. It's actually based on a real event that happened on September 5th of 1862. I'm interested in seeing what they do with this because I happen to like a good biography. Biographies that aren't rock. Not that I don't like the rock ones, but I happen to really love biographies, and I really want to see what it is that they do here. And I happen to really like Eddie Redmayne and Felicity Jones, so I'm excited about this. The next one that I have here, and it's the last one, is the most interesting maybe of the whole group, and it is called The Good Liar. Now, The Good Liar stars Helen Mirren and Ian McKellen, two pillars of American cinema, but it's not, of British cinema. Basically, here's the story. Helen Mirren and Ian McKellen meet online through, what the young people would call the dating sites, and Helen is worth money and Ian is a con artist who usually goes to, swindle women of their money. However, when things start getting close, he has to start thinking, I'm falling basically for this woman, but my job is to steal her money. And the complexities of that situation. The trailer looks amazing, and it looks taut and, full of, thrilling, betrayals and all that great stuff we don't see a whole lot of, in movies these days. Now, the movie is scheduled to be released on November 15th, just in time, in that midst of that, Oscar talk, towards the end of the year. So hopefully maybe that's why it's being released so late in the year. I personally am really looking forward to it. All of these movies, I'm really looking forward to them. All of them are basically dramas. None of them are, grand adventure, special effects blowing up in the sky, which there are plenty of those. Don't get me wrong, there are plenty of those. But these are great movies that do have great acting as the basis for great screenplays, which makes better movies. Now, like I said, if you go on to the show notes, you go to our home online, you can get the other 5 movies that I'm really looking forward to. I'm also going to do a podcast episode soon. I'm working on it right now, where I lay out basically the movies going beyond 2019 that are already scheduled that I'm really looking forward to. So that's another thing I'm going to be working on soon, is let's go beyond 2019. What's in our future and what do we know so far? Now, all of these movies are currently scheduled to be released on the dates that I gave you. Things can change. It is Hollywood. You never know. Now, if you want to see the trailers, again, go to the show notes. I'm going to link all the links to the trailers so you can watch them and let me know what you think. Do you think any of these are worth watching? Do you think all of them suck or all of them great? Let me know what you think, okay? All right, so now it's time for some reviews. So this is the good, the bad, and the ugly reviews. Remember, I take 3 movies, one that's good, one that's bad, and one that's just downright ugly. The first one is the good one, and this is The Man Who Shot Liberty Valance. This is a 1962 American Western directed by John Ford and starring John Wayne and James Stewart. It is a black and white. It was released by Paramount Pictures. It is a movie that was listed in the National Film Registry in 2007. So it must be a good movie, right? Let me tell you, this is one of my favorite Westerns, and it's one of those Westerns that I think everybody should at one time or another really want. It is about the myth of the hero and the West. Now, Westerns for a long time were a thing of, the white man rides in and, he saves you from the dreaded savage Indian and, blah, 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 and the hero with the white hat and all that garbage. But as the 50s turned into the 60s, not only was the world changing, and especially America was changing, so was the studio system, and so was how Hollywood was portraying the past. And there was a lot of directors and a lot of movies that were being made that suddenly started to turn the camera on itself and started to show Westerns in a different light. And this is one of those movies that started to re-examine what it meant to be a Western. And what I mean by that is the bulk of the story is about Stewart, who plays this character who's a senator who comes back to his old hometown, bury John Wayne. And then it's about a flashback of how Stewart became the man that he is, but it's based on a lie. And the whole point is, look, we all have heroes. We all have people we look up to. But do we always know how they got there? And should we even know how they got there? Does it really matter sometimes? And you have to ask yourself these type of questions. If you know that your hero got to where they are in a way that was unsavory, does that change who they are? And should you know that? There was a time when the media would have said, and newspapers and the news would have said, no, we don't need to know that. Of course, times have changed now, but I think it's a still really interesting look as to that question. How much should we know about those people that we put up on that pedestal? So that is a great movie you should watch. The Man Who Shot Liberty Valance is a great movie. Yes, I know, it's John Wayne and it's Western, but trust me, he is not the John Wayne that you think, even though he does say pilgrim a lot. The first time he really says that, I know that that's like an image that we have of John Wayne, that he goes around saying, hey, pilgrim and all that crap. Don't worry, it's not that kind of Western. And anyways, there are some great performances by Vera Miles. Lee Marvin is great as always. Edmund O'Brien. Lots of great stuff to keep you hooked into. But like I said, go watch The Man Who Shot Liberty Valance. Now, for our bad movie today, I have Friday the 13th Part 3. Now, if you listen to the last one of these that I did, you heard me talk about Part 2, and now I'm back with Part 3. Now, does that mean in the next episode I'm going to do Part 4? I'm not sure. I haven't watched it yet. Here's the thing about Part 3. Part 3, and the reason why I actually wanted to mention Part 3, is it a good movie? No, not really. Kind of bad. It was shot in 3D, and the 3D effects, you know how there was always this joke about 3D movies that, they're like, ooh, let me put a board in your face and let me drop water to simulate things rushing at you. This is what this was. There are so many of these, let me swing this 2x4, let me do, dropping, grapes at you type bullshit, that it really does make it seem silly that those scenes are even included in the movie, because they're unnecessary. What's necessary to know is this is the moment in which Jason finally gets his hockey mask. See, if you would watch the first two, first of all, in the first one, there is no Jason. Spoiler alert, it's his mom in the first one. In the second one, he has a burlap sack over his head most of the movie. So in the third one is when we finally get that, iconic Jason mask on him. That's the only thing to really take away. Now, that doesn't mean that it's not worth watching, because it actually is kind of entertaining. Even though it's not good, it's an entertaining movie to watch. If you happen to like horror movies, there's plenty of blood, and in fact some of the most gruesome death scenes ever, including a woman who gets a harpoon right through her face. Classic. But it is what you expect from a horror movie. If you don't like blood, if you don't like, senseless violence, it's not a movie for you. But it's not what you would, call high art of any kind. It's not even miserable art. It is just bad. But again, like I've always said, bad doesn't necessarily mean that it's not worth watching or not worth your time. But it is a bad movie. Now we get to The Ugly. Now, The Ugly is something interesting. It's from 1973. It is a British made-for-television science fiction thriller movie starring, of all people, Leonard Nimoy. Now, I know. Now, if you thought that crappy movies was the realm of William Shatner, well, let me tell you about this one. This is called Baffled. Now, Baffled is a really interesting movie, and that here it is, okay? First of all, it was a made-for-TV pilot that, you know what pilots are, right? They're usually, you know, little self-contained 30 to 60-minute TV shows, auditions almost, so they can base on whether they want to make a TV series out of, you know, these pilots. And most of the time, the pilots, you know, aren't any good, and that's why they don't get made into TV shows. But this one's interesting. So it stars Nimoy as a race car driver. I know, named Tom. And Tom, while in a race at the beginning of the, you know, movie, gets these psychic visions of a place he's never been. And then out of nowhere, a woman named Michelle contacts him because she's an expert on like the occult. And the two of them kind of become a thing and travel to where Nimoy has been getting his visions to solve the mystery. The mystery makes no sense, and I'm going to put a longer review online of Baffled, but it's much like every other movie. First of all, it is an ugly movie in that it's silly at times, but it was actually kind of, I'm going to admit something, I was kind of into it. Now, am I ever going to watch this movie again? No. Do I wish it had been made into a TV show? God, yes. It would have been interesting, and the premise is interesting, even though the execution wasn't the greatest. The execution wasn't great because, you know, Nimoy couldn't act. That's the problem. But the idea, the concepts, the intrigue of the mystery, you know, while, you know, not quite, you know, perfect, were interesting, and it led to me being really into the movie. You can find that movie, I believe, on Amazon Prime. If not, what I'm going to do is I'm going to put in the show notes exactly where you can find this movie, but it is worth your time. If you happen to see it online, I saw it on Comet TV, so if you see it online, by all means, go watch it. It is actually not that bad. It is kind of stupid, and it kind of has to do something with witchcraft and, you know, some nonsense about money, and at the end you're kind of like, wait, was it really about witchcraft? Because I'm kind of lost here, and what happened to this person, what happened to that person? It doesn't make sense, like I said, but for the 70s it wasn't that bad. So that's been today's show. I really hope you guys enjoyed it. If not, let me know, you know, that you did enjoy it. But if you did, don't forget to subscribe. You can find us on all kinds of platforms. You can find us on iTunes, Spotify, Google Podcasts, Stitcher. You can always go to our homepage and listen to the shows there. You can also find all of our links to our social media through the show notes. Thank you so much for listening, and I hope everybody has a great day.